Can you hear me now? You need to unmute us.
I can hear you.
I think we're live.
We should be.
Okay. My audio was sounding real hissy, and now it isn't. So that's good. A little bit. All right. Live on video. Here we go. Let me do a little
Oh, I
test.
forgot something. I forgot to
What?
put in the new link. Everyone in the chat room, I left out a step.
Oh,
Hold on.
we've been running a little bit of just-in-time work
Th-
here, I
thank-
gotta say.
Thanks, Sandy. I forget the best way to get that link.
The clock says 8 minutes till 5.
Yeah, it's last.
Oh, okay. Oh, so wait. So that whole time
All right.
they weren't seeing 5 minutes?
Right.
Oh,
I'm about to update it. Hold on, everyone.
Hold your horses. Calm down, everybody. All right. Clock here says 5, but I can't get this week's video audio. Yeah, he's working on it. Okay. Oh, I can't decide whether to wear my glasses or not wear my glasses.
I think we got it.
Glasses. All right.
All right, chat room. Can you see us now?
So live video with nobody watching. Is it really happening?
Should be. I'm seeing it on the live show.
All right, good.
And you have the right color shirt on, so that's a clue. Unless you wore that last week.
If it's lavender, we're wearing lavender tonight. That's what we should be seeing. All right, let me do a little test here. Man, I'm hearing a lot of hiss.
Me too. It's like it's really loud.
Oh, is that what's wrong? Okay, maybe I'm amped up too high.
I'm wondering if it's my settings because I had to redo mine, right? Oh, no, I didn't have to because that was the other machine.
Ah, hang on. Okay, let's see how that sounds. I had to really crank my audio up for for chit chat this week. Let me try recording here. Failed to start record. No tracks are enabled. Oh, press the wrong button. That's why. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com. Looks pretty good. And I don't hear the hiss anymore. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast. There we go. I think we are in good shape. We haven't done roll call. Let's see. We have a wingman in the house. We have a red Donald Burr. I think that means he's not there. Brett and Will is here. Hey, Will, how you doing? Been a while. And Dave Ginsburg. We got Doug Bender and that Jedi. I'm never sure if they're here. Jin Choi is here, and John and Nuclear John and Rixie Sandy and Sniffle Steve is in the house. Steve.
I may not be on camera as much as I normally am, which isn't not that much, but I have a lot of sneezing to do.
Yeah, I think the main thing we need is to have him not be sneezing into the microphone.
With some coughing thrown in for good measure.
They're saying the clock is off.
Oh, it is. Well, by off, you mean the positioning of the clock? The positioning of the clock, not the time.
What if we put it right on my eyeball like that? Is that about where you want it?
We can fix that. That's the little analog clock.
Yeah, and that's just a joke. All right, we should probably get started because this is all me recording all the time, and Steve's Mac is highly likely to lock up and crash in the middle of this. He's been having some weird lockups, and we just did an FSCK, hoping that fixed it. Seems to be a little better, right, Steve?
Yeah, so far so good, but I don't know.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and start recording, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'm going to mute you. There he goes. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, June 10th, 2018, and this is show number 683. Well, Steve and I skidded around the corner a couple hours back to the house. I hadn't actually finished writing everything for the show yet. Steve's Mac has been crashing, so we're just jumping in here and hoping for the best, hoping this show comes off. We'll see how that works out. Well, this week's Chit Chat Across the Pond is of the light variety, and yet it's with Bart Bouchatz. You see, the developers of Instapaper decided it was just too darn hard to comply with GDPR, even though they had literally years to get ready for it. So instead of actually complying, they summarily disconnected all of Europe from their service with less than a week's notice. Turns out Instapaper was a critical element in how Bart creates his amazing show notes for his show, Let's Talk Apple, and for security bits for the NosillaCast. In this episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond Light, he explains his process, how the different applications used to work together, and how with the help of his Twitter following found an even better solution. I found it really interesting to get kind of a peek behind the curtain of how he works in a completely unstructured conversation. I hope you'll go check it out in either the Chit Chat Across the Pond or Chit Chat Across the Pond Light feed in your podcatcher of choice. Of course, you can always click on the Chit Chat Across the Pond logo on podfeed.com and listen directly from the website. Chapter marker.
Chapter marker.
Oh, maybe I should save this show.
Brett thought that maybe the reason my Mac was acting up is I installed the beta.
Oh.
No,
if only.
I did not.
If only, huh?
Yeah. Whoop.
What?
Nothing. I'll just bring myself back.
And two. What, you were gone?
Yeah, I pushed myself away.
Oh, that's so sad. All right. So sit back and relax. This one's long enough. I might take a break in the middle. This is a 5,000 word blog post coming up.
Woo! 5,000. Is that a record for NosillaCast?
For a single post? Yeah, it used to be about how long the entire thing was. So what is this Chit Chat Across the Pond thing? I really want to do iOS 12, Rick. I want those memojis so badly. All right, if the audience gets bored and unruly, play them Kaylee's video while I'm talking, just in case they get out of control, all right?
I will do that.
If they behave themselves, then you can wait until it's the right time.
Okay. It's a deal.
All right, muting you, bye. Nope. This article started out as a simple review of the Drobo 5N2 network attached. Okay, too many starters to start. Start there. This article started out as a simple review of the Drobo 5N2 network attached storage, also known as a NAS. But as you might have noticed by now, these things kind of take on a life of their own. I'm going to start out with a bit of a walk down memory lane to explain how I got into using Drobos in the first place. I'll explain how I ended up with their newest 5-bay NAS and explain that my quest was to prove that this new device was twice as fast as the previous model, the Drobo 5N. But the quest becomes the real story because of what I learned about testing storage speeds. It's a long story, but it has unexpected twists and turns, so I think you'll enjoy learning along with me. Well, back in March of 2011, on NosillaCast episode number 304, I had Katie Floyd of the Mac Power Users on the show to talk about her new toy, a Drobo FS. In that episode, I specifically talked about why Drobos are dumb. Okay, how did I get a notification? Seriously, what just... It's annoying as heck.
Wasn't
Steve,
me.
Yes, it was, actually. It was you talking. Oh, no, it was Diane talking. That stupid Telegram does not obey.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that
Do not disturb. In that episode, I also heard a crack, so I'm going to kill that anyway. It's going to take forever if I have to do that. In that episode, I specifically talked about why I think Drobos are dumb, or at least I did. My main problem with them was how I thought people were buying them for the wrong reasons. Well, a month later, I bought Steve a Drobo FS for his birthday. I explained in NosillaCast episode number 310 how it wasn't really my fault. It was that Steve asked for it, and, he pretty much gets whatever he asked for from me. I said way back then that I still thought it was silly, but he actually did have a good use case for it. He needed a place to put his giant, uncompressed video projects to get them off of his internal drive, and we wanted them protected by redundancy. No, this isn't a true backup, but it's better than having the data on a single drive. The FS worked fine, and in fact is still running today, but it wasn't particularly fast. 3 years later, in September of 2014, I bought the Drobo 5N. In the post entitled How to Upgrade a Drobo the Hardest Way Possible, I went through an elaborate justification of why we needed it. I explained that I needed a place to put tax documents and other files that I didn't want to keep on my laptop and definitely didn't want in the cloud. The Drobo 5N has been a workhorse, and with the mSATA SSD accelerator card, it's really quite fast. The Drobo dashboard software used to be pretty slow and kind of janky, but vast improvements have been implemented lately, and now it's quite delightful to use to manage the devices. By September of 2014, I had figured out how to back up the new Drobo 5N to the older Drobo FS. I've got a link to that, of course. Let's see, one article was called Backing Up a Drobo, The Adventure Continues, and my final instructions, how to back up a Drobo from one to another. We finally had a true backup of our data, even though it was all on site. But it has pretty much become the gift that keeps on giving, if you like things that are fiddly. The backup from the 5N to the FS is accomplished through ChronoSync on a Mac Mini, and it has been a huge bag of hurt. I do not blame Drobo or ChronoSync, but the failures are constant. You see, sometimes the Mac Mini decides to change networks, which breaks the connection to the Drobos who stay on the right network. Sometimes ChronoSync gets its panties in a bunch about a specific file and refuses all other transfers after that until I go in and I figure out which one has broken it. We have an awesome house sitter who sleeps in the room where the Drobos live, so Steve will turn them off before we go on a vacation. But the poor Mac Mini is still running ChronoSync and crying, where have the Drobos gone? Sometimes I swear a stiff breeze comes through and the whole Drobo to Mac Mini to ChronoSync structure collapses in a heap. I should have kept all of the email notifications I've gotten over the years that start with ChronoSync scheduler, failed sync. I counted and I got 24 of those emails in May alone, and that wasn't even a bad month. Well, now you might be wondering why I've been taking you down this memory lane on my Drobo adventures. I was approached by Drobo to test out their latest network-attached storage device, the Drobo 5N2. While the Drobo 5N we're using today really meets our needs, the Drobo 5N2, according to the marketing messaging, explained that it's twice as fast. To be specific on that speed, the product page on the 5N2 explains that this new version supports dual Ethernet ports that can be bonded together either for speed or failover. In terms of speed, it also says these Okay, I stumbled. To be specific, have I missed anything?
Not too much. We're just talking about Kevin's Mac will no longer be supported with Mojave. That's kind of sad. It's only a 2011. Seems to me that's a little sooner than Apple typically does that. Save.
No dark mode for you. Oh, save. That's a good idea.
I was Kevin.
Save. All right. Muting. To be specific on that speed, the product page on the 5N2 explains that this new version supports dual Ethernet ports that can be bonded together either for speed or failover. In terms of speed, it says, quote, these can be bonded together to provide approximately twice the read-write performance you get via a single port. So we're going to come back to that a bit later. I decided this would be fun to test since they offered to send me one. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, the 5N2 costs $499 before you add any drives. As I contemplated, why is that word so hard?
You want me to say it?
Yes. Contemplated. I also found a typo, but I'm too lazy to fix it. There's a quote sitting at the beginning of a line that says, these can be bonded together. You don't feel like fixing it, probably.
Yeah, I can. I'm sorry. Where is it roughly in the post?
I don't know. The sentence says, in terms of speed, it says, quote, this is in the first couple paragraphs.
Okay.
And the quote is on a line by itself. I think it has a space in between or something. As I contemplated how I would test the 5N2, I thought about what drives I should put in it. I could tear the drives out of the FS or the 5N that I already had, but then how would I do a speed comparison between any two models? Plus, that would mean kind of destroying the data I have. I wrote to the rep from Drobo and asked whether they would be wanting the device back, and they said I'd be allowed to keep it. I wanted you to know that I got it for free, but to test it, it would not be without cost. Since I would be able to keep it, now I was fully motivated to populate it with new drives. I bought it's 5-bay drive, 5-bay NAS, I should say. So I bought 5 4-terabyte Hitachi 7200 RPM drives, and I also bought a Samsung 250 gigabyte 860 Evo Series M SATA SSD to go into the accelerator bay. The hard drives were around $95 each, and the SSD was $109. So I was out over $500 before tax for this free device. I thought that was as important as telling you that I got the Drobo for free, but because it says I had enough faith that this would be a great device to put out my own matching funds. All right, first time setup of a Drobo is really, really fun. They do have an online guide, but the pictures and animated GIFs are generic to any Drobo, so it's not really specific anyway. They do offer steps to migrate disk from one Drobo to another, but I wanted to start from scratch. The first step is to install the mSATA SSD. I keep repeating mSATA because these drives are nothing like a standard SSD. If you flip over the Drobo 5N2 or the 5N, there's a little drive bay door on the bottom, which is what they call the accelerator bay. You pop in the drive, just like you would insert memory into a computer in the old days anyway, and close the pod bay door. I would be giving you specifics on the speed increase of adding the accelerator card, but they aren't actually available from Drobo, so we do it pretty much on faith that the caching that it does is worth the money. Like we said, the 5N is really fast, so we didn't want to go backwards on the 5N2. The front of a Drobo is a door that's attached magnetically. You just kind of pull it off and you can see the 5 empty drive bays. Believe it or not, you just take your bare drives and shove them in there. They tell you to put the label up, but I double-checked those instructions and peered inside to see which way the connector was facing. Label up is correct. Now you plug it into your network and power and turn it on. The lights on the front of the Drobo do a little dance and then they turn amber. Normally, you would next download software, the Drobo dashboard software, but of course, I already had it installed. I brought it up and I giggled with delight that I could now see 3 Drobos. I mean, I'm feeling really gluttonous now. When was the last time, though, you bought a new electronic toy and there wasn't a firmware upgrade to do before you got to play with it? Well, the Drobo was no exception to this new way of life, and I was happy about that. Upgrades are generally a good thing. One of the advantages of the 5N2 is that it has a tool called Drobo DR, where DR stands for disaster recovery. The idea is that you get 2 Drobos and back up one to the other automatically. So if you have a failure on one, you just swap in the second one. I was hoping it would be the answer to my misbehaving Mac Mini ChronoSync Drobo dance I do today, but that was not to be. Turns out to use Drobo DR, you have to have 2 Drobo 5N2s. So I was kind of disappointed in that. Anyway, I'll be telling the tale of my adventure of how I'm going to get a backup going between the 5N2 and the 5N, but that's actually a story for another day. All right, I'd like to quote the webpage that explains the speed of the Drobo 5N2. We talked about it a little earlier, but we got to dig in and get real nerdy here. The 5N2 has dual gigabit Ethernet ports. These can be bonded together to provide approximately twice the read-write performance you get via a single port, or they can be used to provide a connection to 2 different subnets. Furthermore, they can be used in an active-passive mode so that if one port fails, the other takes over. Okay, that's a quote from the brochure level detail. I did a lot of reading to understand exactly what this means and how it works. The first thing to know is that there are about 128 synonyms for this technology. So far, I've seen it called port bonding, port aggregation, bonded Ethernet, link aggregation, teaming port, and port trunking and network interface bonding. I'm going to try to call it port bonding, but I might throw in some synonyms to see if you're paying attention. We'll see. Well, the other thing to keep in mind is the speed increase only affects those who are reading and or writing to the NAS from 2 different computers at the same time. If you access the device one at a time, you're only limited by that one Ethernet connection, so you aren't going to get any benefit from port aggregation or port bonding. Aided by my trusty research assistant, Stephen Getz, he explained that the great news is that my Netgear R8500 router also supports port bonding. Sure enough, I found two Ethernet ports in my router that were made for this, and I never really paid enough attention to notice them. Now, I got to tell you, I really should raise Steven's salary. I might double it for that. Anyway, I fussed around in the router's settings until I found Ethernet port aggregation. After plugging in the two Ethernet cables from the Drobo 5N2, I enabled it on the Netgear. Now, take a spec note here. The Netgear specifically says to enable LACP IEEE 802.3AD. Okay, I applied the change and I restarted my router, and it came back saying it was enabled, but inactive. All right, let's go take a look at the Drobo dashboard settings from the 5N2. Under network settings, I found one called Network Interface Bonding. Are you glad I taught you all those synonyms now? Well, with bonding unchecked, it showed two network interfaces, and down below it showed the two IP addresses of this single Drobo. I checked the box to bond the interfaces, and then it showed only one IP. All right, now we're cooking with gas. This is going to work. I switched back to the router settings, and it still said that port aggregation status was inactive, even though it did say it was enabled. I rebooted every device I could think of, and I simply could not get aggregation to become active. I finally resorted to writing to my technical contact at Drobo. He got back to me right away and explained that their port aggregation solution was not LACP 802.3AD. Now, they are going to migrate to that technology later this year, but right now, he said simply disabling it on the router and enabling it on the Drobo will make it work for now. So that's great. I don't have a problem, but it's good to know that it's not to the standard yet. I ran their method by Bart, and he said it was quite clever. So we're not going to dig into that detail, but it was Bart blessed. All right, finally, it's time to run some tests to see if this port aggregation thing was really all that bag of chips. On the Netgear router, they explained that you had to be careful which ports to hardwire Ethernet for your two computers to truly test the speed. They said, to get the fastest performance with port aggregation for wired connections, use Ethernet port 3 for the first computer and use Ethernet ports 4, 5, or 6 for the second computer. This will allow for speeds up to 2 gigabits per second with port aggregation. The maximum speed between 4, 5, and 6 is limited to 1 gigabit per second. Wow, it's a lot to know about this stuff. So I plugged my 2016 MacBook Pro into one port, into, I think it was port 3, and then Steve's 2017 iMac into port 4, and we were ready to go. I created a 1.3 gigabyte zipped file for us each to transfer to the new Drobo 5N2. I figure I'd test the 5N2 with and without port bonding, and I'd also test the 5N, which doesn't have port bonding, so we'll figure out where that 2x speed increase is. Now, I needed a way to accurately measure the speed to sync a file over, so I decided to use rsync. This is a Linux or Unix command that you can use via the terminal. With a couple of flags set, I would be able to get human-readable stats while the file transfer was in progress and a final report after each transfer. Steve and I started running tests by me yelling, 3, 2, 1, go! Over and over and over again. We ran dozens of tests, and I compiled them all into my beloved Excel. However, my results were very odd. Our results, I should say. Let's do a little math to set the stage. We were using gigabit Ethernet, which is 1,000 megabits per second. There are 8 bits in a byte, so 1,000 megabits per second is 125 megabytes per second. So in theory, and we know theory is always just theory, we should be seeing 125 megabytes per second transfer from one Mac to either Drobo as long as only one of us was writing or reading. In our test, though, we were seeing less than 50 megabytes per second, so not even half that speed. Now, I know that there's like 126 different things that can bring that speed down, as I read in an article on Tom's Hardware Guide that's linked in the show notes, but we shouldn't be at less than half that speed. The other odd thing was that when Steve and I were both writing to the Drobo 5N, Steve's much more powerful iMac would drop down to like 26 megabytes per second. That made no sense. I mean, his machine's way more powerful than mine. Why would that happen? Now, with port bonding, we should both be getting more than 100 megabytes per second, but oddly, there was no speed increase at all when we turned on port bonding. The two of our read speeds combined went from 87 megabytes per second without bonding on the 5N to 97 megabytes per second on the 5N2 with port bonding. And that's barely any different. All right, it was time to bring in the big guns. They connected me at Drobo with Rod Harrison, the CTO of Drobo, with whom we'd spoken several times at CES and NAB. I sent my results to Rod with my test equipment description, a diagram of my network setup, my test procedures, and my results. Man, can you tell I'm an engineer? I would love dealing with me if I was a vendor. Anyway, Rod's initial reaction was that the individual speeds were way too low. Again, that we should be above 100 megabytes per second. He had me run log files from the Drobos as I ran more tests, and he analyzed them. He explained, and I'm quoting, an imbalance on the transmit side like that is indicative of the bonding. I'm going to write something in here. He explained, stop. Have I missed anything fun, Steve?
A lot of talk about using Synology versus Robo and where people are putting their Plex data.
Yeah, we have yet to figure out how to get our Plex data to show up outside of our network unless we turn on UPnP.
Yeah. Which
has anybody succeeded? What's that?
Which Mark just loves.
Yeah, so have any of you guys successfully gotten Plex to work from outside your network and you haven't turned on UPnP? Because I know you can, it's supposed to work on like port 13400, something like that. Okay, Kevin, I saved already. Wait a minute. Oh, I lost it. Oh, no, here it is. Hang on. This is what you mean. Didn't work. Wait a minute. Okay, Geno Choi's got it working. Okay. Without port bonding, without port bonding. Why is that not clicking? Ooh. Oh, well. And you don't have UPnP turned on. Ooh. And we may need to, that's good to know. I'm going to make a little note to myself here. Waste a bunch of Geno Choi's time with about Plex.
Can someone remind me how you transmit your voice on Discord but mute yourself on Discord? Because I'm hearing myself twice. I'm hitting just
set your headphones to your microphone to something you're not listening to. Yeah. So down in the bottom of Discord where you see your name, you've got a little gear there.
Voice and audio.
Yeah, you want your headphones not to be your headphones. Okay, without UPnP. By the way, I have it working on my Mac Mini that decides to be shut down all the time. My Mac Mini is running without it, but not my Drobo. Analyze them.
Okay. Can people still hear me?
I can still hear you.
All right. I think that did it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Analyze them.
Thanks, Rick.
Wait, what? Else from the Drobos as I ran more tests and he analyzed them. I can't find that in my notes at all. Where is that? Serious.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for where I said, and I analyzed it. They analyzed them. I gotta go back and find it. A diagram of my network setup, my test procedures, and my results. Man, can you tell I'm an engineer?
Okay.
I would love dealing with me if I was a vendor. Oh, I'm gonna cut it there. That I found. Thank you. Whoops. I heard the sneeze through the door. It's like you got paused in time. All right. Okay. Now remember, Steve had really low, I think it was read speeds on our tests, and they were much lower than mine. Well, Rod's initial reaction was, first of all, the individual speeds were way too low, that we should be above 100 megabytes per second. But he had me run log files from the Drobos as I ran more tests, and he analyzed them. He explained, an imbalance on the transmit side, like what we saw for Steve, is indicative of the bonding sending out of the same port. The receive side was in imbalance. He suggested restarting one of the Macs to fix it. Now, Rod had his team run similar tests later on their own systems, and they found they were able to replicate some of that performance drop that we saw. They found a problem that caused a performance problem only with Mac clients and didn't happen with Windows. This was fresh news as I was testing, and they're working on a fix for it, and they expect to have it out sometime soon. But then he figured out a much bigger problem in my testing. After a few more tests, Rod suddenly realized why my overall speeds were so much slower than expected. He apologized profusely for not noticing sooner, but he explained that rsync is notoriously slow. I did some hunting online for verification, and I found a super nerdy article at lwn.net, link in the show notes, of course, that walked through a bunch of tests and really geeky explanations. I would summarize their findings like this. rsync uses 3 processes. One process does writes, one does reads. The 2 of them stop what they're doing and lean on their shovels and chat about it between them from time to time. And then the 3rd process is actually the supervisor who stands around talking to them about the game last night. Like I said, they've got a more technical explanation, but that's the basis of what they said. Now, luckily, Rod didn't just say, don't use rsync. He suggested a couple of different tools I could try, one of them called AJA System Test Lite, a free app in the Mac App Store. It's designed for testing network-attached storage speeds for people using them to write and read video. I'd used AJA's local test years ago for testing an OWC SSD, recommended by OWC, so I was familiar with AJA. Steve and I both installed AJA System Test Lite and got back to testing. AJA System Test has 2 dials for write and read speeds. If you tap the little graph symbol at the bottom, you can see a graph of the speed over time when the test is done. The left side lets you choose the size of the file copied back and forth, the codec, and of course the target disk. We left everything at the defaults and started selecting the different Drobos. Sure enough, just as Rod had predicted, we got great speeds with the new testing method. By myself, I could read and write to the 5N2 at around 92 megabytes per second, and Steve with his iMac could read and write at about 106 megabytes per second. So that's us running by ourselves. If we compared that to our speeds running one at a time to the older 5N, it was actually twice as fast. But we really wanted to know if port bonding allowed 2 users to go twice as fast if they access the Drobo at the same time. Now that we had an accurate way to test, we ran 3 scenarios. I told you the testing itself was the adventure, right? Anyway, we ran 3 scenarios. The older 5N, which doesn't have port bonding, the newer 5N2 with port bonding disabled, and the newer 5N2 with port bonding enabled. We ran the test from both computers at the same time and then added our speeds together to come up with a combined speed comparison. If we compare the 5N2 without port bonding enabled, it was 37% faster in writes than the 5N and 11% faster in reads with 2 clients pushing data at the same time. But with port bonding turned on, the 5N2 was 53% faster in writes and 50% faster in reads than the 5N. Now, 50% faster is a huge improvement and definitely makes the 5N2 with port bonding a fantastic enhancement over the 5N. Now, remember, the value of port bonding is when you have more than one computer accessing data from the same Drobo at the same time. Now, it doesn't hurt you at all if only one computer is accessing data, but port bonding isn't actually helping you there. Now, I still had a question back to Drobo, though, because the 5N2 with port bonding being 50% faster than the 5N without it does not match up with their claim that the 5N2 is twice as fast. Marketing first answered me by saying, oh, those 2x speed increase, that's if you put SSDs in the 5N2. Well, that's not a fair comparison at all. You can't put spinning drives in one and SSDs in the other and say it's because it's a better machine, right? It's kind of annoying. Luckily, the CTO came back with a better answer. He said that with jumbo frames turned on and good spinning hard drives, they have measured the speed increase to be twice as fast. Oh man, now I gotta go figure out what the heck are jumbo frames. Well, Drobo has clear articles explaining how to enable jumbo frames under the heading of modifying MTU settings. Well, what's an MTU? In a little pop-up, they explain jumbo frames as follows. Jumbo frames maintain data transfer rates of more than 1,500 bytes per frame and can carry up to 9,000 bytes per frame. Enabling jumbo frames minimizes transaction loads and can dramatically improve network performance by raising effective bandwidth. Well, on MTU, they say maximum transfer units, the maximum number of bytes that can be transferred at a time in one frame. Okay, if that's a good thing to do, why are jumbo frames always enabled? Well, I went off to the Googles and found an article in Wikipedia that wasn't much help to me, but Netgear actually had a great post entitled Guidance on the Use of Jumbo Frames. They explained that, why you'd want to use jumbo frames for network performance, but they also explained that you should be very careful when using them. They said that you can actually slow your network down or even break it if the MTU of one device is different from the MTU of another. They advise you that you should only enable jumbo frames if you can isolate the NAS on a separate LAN or VLAN. Well, at this point, I decided I was done testing. I would take their word for it on the whole jumbo frame MTU thing. Well, the bottom line is I really enjoyed learning so much about how to accurately test the speed of different NAS devices, and I was pleased with the end results of the 5N2. It's an expensive device, but as you can see, I've had 3 of them now, investing half of the cost with my own money on the last one, so I am a believer in the devices. My next step is figure out a way to have the 5N2 automatically sync to the 5N. I have a solution sort of working, but I think we'll save that for next time.
Whew. Simultaneous.
Yeah.
So Jinho Choi has a couple suggestions about which are router specific, and it looks like he's got one for Netgear. Netgear Nighthawk.
Yeah. Can you copy that down for me? Put it somewhere.
Sure will.
So I have set up port forwarding. And it is working. That's the weird thing. It is working for my Wi-Fi connected Mac Mini, but it's not seeing the Plex server on the Drobo. Except sometimes, which is even more fun, right? I swear right in the middle of this, I've got a point where I say that it is twice as fast, which makes no sense. Steve's writing something quite feverishly over there. All right. I think I'm going to do that first. I'm going to wing it. All right. Oh, we should do a chapter marker. Oh, yes. This is what I'm going to be talking about. This is the new WiseCam. The WiseCam Pan. It rotates in azimuth, and the little ball goes up and down elevation, and it's really fun, and it's $30. Yeah, all routers do. Wait. Oh, you're talking about something else. Okay. Let's see. Where am I? There.
Yes, it is reasonable, Sandy. $30 is incredibly reasonable for this thing.
Yeah.
And they store, well, I guess you're going to get into this, but they
no,
store
go ahead and
7 days of video?
15, I think,
15.
for free. 10, 15, something like that. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you can store locally on an SSD.
And we kind of question their business model, follow the money type thing. But they do charge for the product, and Bart, didn't Bart check into them? Or you did?
No.
I did.
What's it? Yeah, you did?
I did, yeah. Let me see if I can bring up that email.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think their business model is sell a trunk load of them. This game is addicting. Here we go. All right, if there's typos in this, I won't be at least bit shocked. I wrote this at about 4:20 today. What could possibly go wrong? All right, here we go. That needs a little more.
Before you start?
Yes.
Brett brings up a good point. He's correct. WiseCam is not HomeKit compatible, but that's
right.
There are very few that are, although it's growing, but slowly. That is video.
I mean, yeah, I kind of, I don't know. Neither is the $150, but the $150 Omna webcam was HomeKit compatible, By the way, these guys haven't fixed the crack vulnerability yet.
Wise
And
Cam?
neither is Omna. D-Link, but D-Link didn't fix it for $150. These guys aren't fixing it for $20 and $30. I need to nag them about that again. I've asked them, and they're like, "Oh, our Chinese supplier has to do it. We'll make them." All right, here we go. Back in January, I told you about how Joe LaGreca convinced Steve and me to try out the $20 plus $5 shipping. No. I'm just too distracted by the fact that I said Steve and I instead of Steve and me. And I know that will bother
Good catch.
them.
Thank you.
Steve will not be able to live with it if I do that. Back in January, I told you about how Joe LaGreca convinced Steve and me to try out the $20 Wise Cam. I made a worse typo. Now it says, I me too. Okay. One more time. Hang on. Hey, Siri. Remind me to write back to Linda Moorhead at 6:15 p.m. Something is up. Okay. Back in January, I told you about how Joe LaGreca convinced Steve and me to try out the $20 security camera from a company called Wisecam. After buying one Wisecam for our family room, we bought one for the living room to replace the Omna webcam that made me so angry. Then we bought a third one that points out a front window to give us full visibility to our front yard, our driveway, and our mailbox. It's actually one of my favorite views. The Wisecam is an adorable little camera that reminded us of the three little robots in the movie Silent Running, a 1972 sci-fi movie starring Bruce Dern. So we named the three little cameras Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Well, I've already told you about all the cool features of the Wisecam in my article in January, but since I wrote that up, they've come out with two new cameras. Just a bit ago, they came out with the Wisecam 2, which had a little bit better sensor, and it added motion tagging, which is actually when Dewey and Louie joined the team. Motion tagging shows you on screen what motion triggered it to record by putting a little green box around it and showing it as whatever it was moved around. You can also set motion zones. So like with Dewey, who looks out the front window, we excluded the area where the tree leaves were always triggering an alert. Well, while we were on holiday to Memphis, we got an alert on Louie, who watches the living room. I got the cutest little video of one of our cats, Ada Lovelace, going kind of berserk in the middle of the night, all captured in infrared light. Well, I thought maybe my addiction to Wisecam was finally satiated, but then they really messed with me. They came up with the new Wisecam Pan. This camera is a whole $10 more than the original, so it's going to set you back $30 plus shipping. I mean, that's a comically low price for what you get. The Wisecam Pan rotates a full 360 degrees in azimuth, also known as horizontally to you civilians, and 93 degrees in elevation, also known as vertically. You can use the app on your phone to pan and tilt at will, which is really fun. It's actually a bit fast at up to 110 degrees per second that it'll move, so if that's too fast for you, you can change the speed in the settings under motor controls. But better yet, it's motion activated, so it will track movement around the room. While we were out of town for the weekend, we put it up on our fireplace mantle in our bedroom, which is also my podcasting studio. Please note, I said while we weren't home. Anyway, it was great fun to track the cats around as they lounged on our bed. Since Wisecams all have two-way audio, we were also able to call out to them and try to freak them out. It kind of worked. As if all of this were not enough, you can set up 4 waypoints for a feature they call Pan Scan. The idea is you can have it do active patrol of these 4 waypoints on a constantly rotating basis. It stops for 10 seconds at each angle and then moves on. Now, by default, these 4 points are every 90 degrees, but you can set them yourself. The interface is brilliantly simple, and I gotta say that's part of what makes Wisecam so fun. Is their software is fantastic. It's super easy to use. It's really easy to set them up, and it's very intuitive. So when you want to set up these waypoints, you get a little on-screen guide that invites you to position the field of view, and then tap on a plus button and hit set. Of course, I did it wrong the first time, but then I paid attention to what it was telling me to do, and I got the hang of it the second time. The good news is that the pan scan feature is interrupted if it senses motion in its field of view. That means that, Tom Cruise could probably evade the camera, but if you didn't realize it was there, you would be caught on camera. At least one of you is going to ask, why do you have all of these cameras? I'm not really sure I can articulate the problem we've solved with them, but it's the best fun we've had with for $90 in a really long time. We also now have 3 Ring cameras on the outside of our house, and those actually are doing surveillance. For example, we've always wanted to know who brings in our trash cans when we're away from home, and now we finally caught our house sitter Brandy in the act bringing them in because we're watching the side of our house as well as the back of our house as well as the front of our house. Now, I would normally put a link to Wisecam Pan on Amazon in the show notes, but since it was just released, Wisecam themselves are not selling it there yet. Some bozo reseller has it for $46 instead of $30, but don't pay that. Go to wisecam.com and buy it direct from them for $30 plus shipping. Cost me $8 to have it shipped, so way less than those jokers. I'm sure Wisecam will start selling on Amazon as soon as they get enough of enough of them built to satisfy the crazy pre-order people like me. One last thing. I'm sure some of you are wondering what we named our Wisecam Pan. Of course we named it Valley Forge. Hey, how come I don't have a chapter marker?
Uh-oh. No chapter marker.
I swear I put it in. I absolutely remember putting it in.
Retroactive chapter marker.
I did it. I absolutely remember doing it. And that's of concern. Save that for next time. Back in January, okay, let's put it in again. I think I'll save. Don't forget to insert chapter mark. I tried to put the GIF in and it didn't work. I'm sad.
Which GIF?
That's how I forgot.
The one that Kevin created?
Yeah. Go and find her. This is important stuff. Let me try it this way. There it is. This is what we should be looking at. Come on. Maybe that's why I don't get chapter markers done, because I do stuff like this. There we go. That worked.
That's it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, that's intimidating. If you don't save after that, you're just not thinking right.
Not paying attention, huh? Do you think anybody else is going to have seen Silent Running?
Let's see. I thought I mentioned it. I didn't see anyone else comment on it. Anyone else see the movie Silent Running? I think it was from the
1972.
72? Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people probably have not seen that. But I thought it was a classic sci-fi movie. Very good.
That reminds me.
And I like Bruce Dern.
There was a typo in that. Did I save it locally? Yes, I did. Okay.
I think my favorite part was how the Huey, Dewey, and Louie communicated with each other on the side. I don't think I'm doing a spoiler alert by saying that, but it's priceless.
We should watch that. I think we own it, don't we?
We might.
Okay. All right. Gonna do a little Amazon. Come on. What's going on? There we go. This works. Not doing a chapter marker yet. Well, it really killed me to not give you an Amazon link to the Wisecam just now. But you know what? If the price isn't a good deal for you, I am never going to do that. I love to give these Amazon links because I know most people like to shop there. And if you do buy through one of my Amazon affiliate links, a small percentage may go to help the show. But please rest assured that I will not steer you wrong and knowingly send you there if it's anything more than maybe a couple of bucks more than anywhere else. By the way, I keep saying that the Wise Cam 2 is $20, but you'll notice on Amazon it's 25. That's because it includes shipping, if you have Prime, of course. And but if you get it directly from Wisecam, it's $20 plus $5 shipping. So it all washes out. I think it's actually 26 on Amazon. But for the convenience, you probably might want to buy it there anyway. Anyway, many thanks to all of you who help support the show in so many ways, including clicking on the Amazon affiliate links. Delete. Okay. All right. I think I may have cracked the code on something I've been messing up. Very interesting. Uh-oh, poor Steve.
I'm back.
Oh, you gonna be okay?
I'm hanging in there.
You're unmedicated too.
Unlike my usual self.
Yep. I hope you guys aren't tired of hearing about WWDC.
WWDC?
Oh, people hate that. Right?
I know.
All right. I'm putting in the chapter marks.
Is this foreshadowing?
Yep.
Uh-oh.
What?
What if I am tired of it?
Well, I guess you'll have to tune out. You don't listen to the show anyway. What are you talking about?
I've read the article, and I'm going to now hear it.
All right. I'm muting you. No, I'm not starting apparently. Oh, don't forget to send show them the Hooney Ecker video.
Yeah, do you care when?
Yeah, you can show it now. Whenever you like.
I think after this post.
Well, it's in the middle of this is when I'm going to talk about it. Okay, here we go. I really had a blast watching the WWDC keynote this year. The NosillaCast live chat room at podfeed.com/chat on Discord was positively hopping. We had people from across the globe where some, Kaylee, even got up in the middle of the night to watch to see what Apple would have to say. It was a total party in there. We had a great time. Next time there's a announcement from Apple, you should come. It's really fun. Well, okay, I'm going to mute you now. You were muted, and I think I muted you, and then you unmuted you. Yeah. After the announcements were over, I started thinking about each thing they announced and whether I was excited, bored, or maybe even annoyed. I thought it might be fun to walk through not every bit of the announcements, but the things on which I had a strong opinion. We're going to start with iOS 12. Apple talked about how they're really doubling down on performance in iOS 12. The performance they talked about wasn't in things like high-end gaming or video production. They talked about making the experience better on older phones. Now, you can look at this in one of two ways, both of which are fairly cynical. Number one, Apple had to do this because everybody knows, or at least has been accusing them, of slowing down older phones. Or possibly, number two, Apple did this because they'll make more money. Now think, okay, I'm going to close my door. That's coming through on the recording. All right, let's see. Is this or number two? Or possibly number two. Or another way to look at it is Apple did this because they'll make more money. While they make really high margins on their high-end phones, it's no secret that their fastest growth is now in services. Think about it. If they can sell you iCloud storage on an iPhone 5S because it's only got 16 gigabytes of local storage, that's a win for Apple, right? If they can get an Apple Music subscription out of you because you can't fit any music locally either, it's the highest margin money they can make. So you can pretty much choose to be cynical either way if you like. I think it's awesome for people who have a phone they like and nothing's wrong with it. It's great for them to be able to get all the new features and, more importantly, get security updates. Now, they're also going to get speed improvements, and that's even better. No matter Apple's motivations, I put this in the interesting and that's really nice category. Well, you've heard me say pretty often that I don't believe in virtual reality. I think Tom Merritt answered that best when he said, "Well, it does exist, Allison." I guess I should come up with a new way of talking about it. But when I say that, what I mean is I don't believe VR is a game changer or will be a big an advancement to the way we use our devices. It's clearly very fun for games, but beyond that, I'm really not seeing where it's going to change the world. However, I do think that augmented reality, putting virtual things into a view of actual reality, could make a difference. I think I started believing it when 2 years ago, a vendor at CES described a scenario where a miner underground needed to repair some equipment. Let's say she straps on some goggles or not, and she could see how the part she's working on should look, and she can see how to pull it apart, and that view is superimposed over the physical equipment in front of her. That starts to make sense to me as a game changer. But when Apple talked about AR on stage at WWDC, I could not help but yawn. Talking with breathless excitement about being able to use your iPhone to measure something was a complete waste of our time. Now, I'm not saying it's not useful to be able to measure something with your phone, but it's also the first thing developers created after ARKit was introduced. I mean, what's new in that? And maybe it'll work better than the available measuring apps out there today, but it was like them announcing that they have their own flashlight app. I mean, it is pretty handy having the flashlight app on the the lock screen, but anyway, it's, not that big a deal. Now, playing two-person games in AR was kind of nifty, but if this is all for games, then it's hard to get very excited. Well, I don't play many games. That's not why I'm bored with this. I'm bored because it could be so much more. I do hope that Apple building these frameworks, people are going to create much more interesting uses. I mean, imagine a relatively unskilled surgeon in a war zone being able to perform brain surgery because they had someone directing them in VR from thousands of miles away. That's what I can get excited about. Listener and contributor Terry Austin is an anatomy professor, and he sent me a really cool AR video of a tool that he uses to allow people to view a skull in 3D in space in front of them. And then he could pull it apart and dive inside to explain the different parts and what functions they provide. Now, that's good stuff. I'm going to give Apple a yawn in the presentation, but AR gets a mild excitement rating from me. There was one area in the announcements that I found really, truly disappointing, and that was in the enhancements for photos on iOS. I'm really weary of services, I should say, telling me what I should care about with my photos. Facebook is always showing me memories to share. Google Photos sends me on this day notifications as though February 3rd was some magic day. Apple Photos on iOS has the same sort of memories and pre-created events, but I got to tell you, they simply get in my way. They seem to flip up from below when I bump a photo while trying to show it to someone. I have absolutely never wanted to discover that. And Apple announced more of the same kind of features. Now, what I really wanted was the ability to add metadata via iOS. I like to name my photos, and I know others like to tag their images. Looking at Alistair here. But for some reason, Apple doesn't see fit to give us that access on iOS. Now, you can't search by names you created over on the Mac, but you can't edit or work on them in iOS. Maybe Alistair and I are in the minority, but it disappointed me that there was still no progress in this area. They did say that they were adding search refinements where you could string searches together. That might be nice. Now, Apple showed off what they call Siri shortcuts, which appears to be what they've been doing with the workflow team they bought recently. The demo was clearly the workflow software rebranded. I love the idea of workflow and IFTTT and things like that, but every time I think about using these kinds of tools, yet for the life of me think of a problem I have that they solve. I'm sure it's out there, but I just don't know what it is. I know there's others who are fanatical about these tools, and they seem to solve a lot of problems for them. And like I said, I want to be excited about it. So if anyone listening is excited and has ideas for what this could mean, sure love to hear about you on it. Now, the example many people give with workflow is the ability to send a notification to their family that they're on their way home and have them send an updating ETA. Well, I set that up with Workflow a long time ago and I used it once. Instead, I have an app I use called Glimpse. It does that in a push button already. I'm sure I'm just being short-sighted here and I just don't have vision, but I found myself yawning yet again. I was very excited to hear that Apple was going to give Do Not Disturb some love. Steve and I have been plagued by apps that don't obey D&D, like Telegram, and wake us up in the middle of the night. My Mac and my iPhone 10 live on the desk in our bedroom, and every few nights, one of them will just light up to alert us to some amazing notification they think we need to view right now. Well, both devices are on a scheduled D&D at night. In theory, only a notification from someone in our VIP list should get through, but they are absolutely not obeying that rule. I'm not sure the advances that Apple is planning will address my problems, but if they're in there poking into the code, maybe they'll accidentally fix it. If poking. Whoop. Find poking. Nope. Poking. I feel like I'm missing the show tonight because I'm having a. Why is it? Oh, no, it's in this one. Poking. If they're in, not either in. Love my Lego. I did that one. I did that one. I did that one. I did that one. Here we go. Save. Now that Allison says that, what do I say? What did I do? I'm skipping over the Lego thing. I have opinions, but I was afraid I'd get my house firebombed if I said what I thought about Lego.
Well, no, we should talk about that after the post. After
I'm done? Oh, it's 6:01. Wow. Better keep going. Bye. Thank you. In the category of things Apple did because of public pressure, I would add their new screen time feature. This is the service that allows you to see how much time you're spending on your device and in which apps. You can also put in controls to try to stop yourself from overdoing it. They suggested, as an example, setting a limit on Instagram to a specific number of hours per day, and then you'd have to override it if you wanted to still use it. While the whole idea is laudable, people who are addicted to anything... Steve, I just realized... Sorry, nobody pay attention to this. Can you order dinner?
Okay.
We were supposed to do that at 5:30.
All right.
Barbecue chopped chicken salad half with avocado.
Of course. I mean, do you ever deviate over the past 22 years?
No. Okay. Sorry, everybody. We were supposed to do that about a half hour ago. Okay. Well, the whole idea is laudable. Well, the whole... All right. Does anybody else want something from California Pizza Kitchen? Just let Steve know what you want. While the whole idea is laudable, people who are addicted to anything either won't enable screen time or won't obey it when it does nag them. You know those people are... Put that over again. While the whole idea is laudable, people who are addicted to anything either won't enable screen time or won't obey it when it does nag them. For example, you know those people who are always late, so they set their clocks ahead by 5 minutes? Are those people now on time for everything? No, they're still late. This is the same kind of thing. I think for data nerds like me, though, it will be awesome. I can see gamifying this, seeing if you could beat yesterday's record, fewer or more hours on the device, depending on how you want to play, and competing with your friends. That would be awesome. You know, on the other hand, maybe there is a segment of the population who would benefit from screen time. Maybe they'll have an effect like the Apple Watch exercise tracking did. Most people who don't want to exercise simply turn off the reminders to stand and notifications about their activity level. But there are the Bart Bouchatts and the Chris Ashleys of the world who finally found in the Apple Watch the tool to help them regain their health and well-being. So maybe screen time will help those who really do want to help themselves. Well, the most exciting thing in the WWDC keynote to me was tongue detection and Animoji. All right, maybe not, but I did squeal with delight. I am always sticking my tongue out when I make them, and I'm always disappointed when the unicorn doesn't stick its tongue out too. Then when they announced Memoji, I was even more excited. Being able to create essentially moving Bitmoji that look like you sounds really fun. After the keynote, Kaylee from Japan immediately put all of her devices on the beta because she's crazy and sent me this hilarious Memoji video. Oh, and she stuck her tongue out at the end. Like I said, it was hilarious. By the way, I hardly ever use iMessage because or is it called Messages? Whatever. You know what I mean. I hardly ever use it because I got so weary of the tangled group threads. But, when I do have a desperate need to be silly, I'm thrilled about Memoji and tongue detection. Let's see if that's enough to bring me back. They added the cloud syncing. Maybe it won't get all wrecked. We'll see. Now, who amongst us didn't see the Modern Family episode where Claire and Phil and the kids were having constant group FaceTime calls in their search for their daughter? And didn't you yell at your TV, "You can't do multiple people in video FaceTime"? Well, finally, we too will be able to have group FaceTime. I love FaceTime, and we do it all the time in our family. Being able to talk to my grandson every few days is awesome. But then Steve wants to see Forbes too, and we have to awkwardly smash our faces close together to fit on screen, and it's generally annoying. Being able to have the three of us on separate devices is going to be awesome. I really like the fluid way the person's talking video image flowed in and out and became bigger. It was beautifully done. But 32 people on a FaceTime call? No, just no, okay? All right, let's move on to watchOS 5. While Memoji and group FaceTime on iOS 12 is thrilling, the updates to watchOS exercise will be actually useful. If you don't yet wear an Apple Watch or aren't yet obsessed with tracking your exercise with one, you do not know the agony of going on a 4-mile run and then halfway through realizing you forgot to start a workout. You see, it's all about credit. It does not matter that you actually did burn those calories. If the watch doesn't show it, you don't get credit, and it's really maddening. In watchOS 5, if the watch notices you might be exercising and haven't yet turned on a workout, it will politely ask you if you're exercising and might want to turn one on. That will be so awesome. I know I've used the word awesome a lot lately, but that'll be awesome. It will even give you retroactive credit if you had forgotten to turn on a workout. Now, the second most aggravating thing about tracking exercise in the Apple Watch is when you forget to turn it off after exercising. If you're a person of integrity, it really bothers you to get like 200 calories of credit for a third of a mile walk. In watchOS 5, the watch will notice if you're taking a nap but supposedly still working out and gently suggest you might have forgotten to stop it. I am so happy about this. Now, I can't decide whether the new walkie-talkie feature on watchOS will be amazing or the worst idea they've ever come up with. While I would love to purposely interrupt Joe Duganzik while he's recording one of his videos for Smarter Home Life with a silly walkie-talkie message, I'm not exactly sure I'd enjoy the reciprocal behavior. There's been speculation that you'll have a mode that you can toggle on whether to receive them or when, but if they do let us do that, we'll probably all just shut it off and forget the feature even exists. Now, they also announced that with watchOS 5, you won't have to say, "Hey Siri," when you raise your wrist to talk to her. At first, I thought that was great, but then I realized it can't possibly be a good idea. If you raise your wrist to say, "Check the time," or read a notification, and you happen to be talking, won't Siri think you're talking to her? What if somebody else is talking? Won't it listen to them too? Or the TV? Doesn't that also mean that your watch will always be listening when you raise your wrist? Pretty sure that's not what we want, is it? All right, finally, let's talk about Mojave. And the first thing we're going to get into here is it's pronounced Mojave. It's not pronounced Mojave, like Craig Federighi kept saying it on stage. It's Mojave. After living through the nightmare years of listening to Dave Hamilton pronounce El Capitan, I'm afraid we might be descending into a similar dark year. Please, please, please don't pronounce it like Craig. It's Mojave. All right, now that we got that out of the way. I'm old, so my close vision is completely shot. Because of that, the brighter a screen is, the better I can see. This is because when the screen is bright, your pupils contract. Just like in photography, the smaller the aperture, the deeper the depth of focus. However, for many other people, having a bright screen can be annoying and maybe even make it harder for them to see. For those folks, Apple giving us a dark mode in Mojave will be a huge improvement. Now, I think Apple's plan is to have a single toggle for dark mode and all apps that enable it will go dark. I think it would be cooler to be able to enable the feature by app. Like you might want a photography app in dark mode, but a text editing app in light mode. Anyway, maybe we'll get that in the OS after Mojave. Everyone say it with me, Mojave. Well, remember how I said screen time won't stop the truly addicted from using their phones? There's another enhancement Apple introduced that's equally laudable, but will never help those who really need it. Apple introduced a feature called Desktop Stacks in Mojave. If you litter your desktop with files and turn this feature on, it will tidy your desktop up into piles by file type. All of your images will be in a stack, all of your text documents piled together, and on and on. Now I'd like you to close your eyes. I want you to visualize two different people's desks. In both cases, you've seen these desks before. The one on the left is covered in papers. It's messy and disorganized. The one on the right has paper stacked on every single available part of the desk, but they're stacked, not messy. The people who have these two types of desks are not ever going to become truly organized. They might even have different personalities, but they do have similarities. The messy one might believe that they will someday clean up, but the stacker truly believes that they have a good method in which to work. I worked for a guy that I swear, I asked him for a document once and he pulled it out. It was a document from more than 30 years back and he knew right where it was. So maybe they do have a method, but I don't know. On a virtual desktop, the messy person would never be able to find something if they had everything stacked all up, right? They wouldn't be able to find it because they actually believe scanning around on the desktop for that icon is efficient. They know that that one's in the upper left and this one's in the lower right. The stacker might want to stack things their own way, not the way Apple decides, so they should be stacked, right? They like their methods and nothing can help them. The dumbest part of this was when they said you could tag your files and then have stacks by tags. Do they really think that the type of people who leave junk all over the desktops are the same kind of people who meticulously tag their files? No. Again, it is admirable that Apple is trying to save these people from themselves, but I guarantee it will not change their evil ways. Now, I don't know if there's a single name for this next category of thing, but I'm going to call it quick actions in the Finder. Apple showed off contextual menus you could access right from the Finder to edit certain kinds of documents. For example, you'll be able to rotate images right from within Quick Look. Why should you have to open Preview just to do that? This is going to be great. It's also really annoying to me that when I simply want to trim a video, I have to open it in QuickTime, do the trim, and then for no apparent reason, it creates a second version of the file when I save because it wants to re-encode the file, usually from M4V to MOV. Why didn't it make it an MOV in the first place? I get all my videos from an Apple device. Anyway, in Mojave, by the way, did you know it's pronounced Mojave? Not Mojave, Mojave. Anyway, we'll be able to do the edit right in Quick Look. I actually mispronounced it a little bit there. I better go back and fix it or I'll get hate mail.
The first one.
Anyway,
me.
In Mojave, what?
The first one will be from me.
Did you hear it?
Yes.
Anyway, in Mojave, by the way, did you know it's pronounced? Why didn't it make it an MOV in the first place? I get all my videos from an Apple device. Well, in Mojave, by the way, it's pronounced Mojave, we'll be able to do the edit right in Quick Look. You'll even be able to invoke markup in PDFs without opening them in Preview. I literally squealed with delight when they mentioned Automator, not once, but twice during this part of the keynote. I texted Ray Robertson immediately because I was so excited. Being able to write your own actions could be really cool. You know, a lot of us were worried when they let Sal Sagoin go from Apple, because he was the guy that basically invented Automator and ran that team. We were afraid that Automator would be lost. But this sure made Automator sound alive and well. By the way, I do get the irony that I'm excited about Automator, but bored by workflow. Well, we've been having a lively discussion in the NosillaCast Facebook group about whether Apple is truly innovating these days. Shockingly, I'm defending Apple. One of the areas I believe they've been truly innovative has been in the area of security and privacy. In the keynote, they announced that they're shutting down the ability for those Facebook and Google like buttons to track you around the internet. Safari simply won't let them. I think that's glorious. Bart has also explained to us that we're being digitally fingerprinted on the internet. In order to track us, they combine information like our IP address, the user agent of our browsers, are using Firefox or Safari or Chrome, the machine type you're using, are you on desktop, are you on mobile, plugins you have installed, and even the fonts you use are being combined together. And when they do that, they can actually tell where you've been on the internet and what you've viewed, presumably to better serve you ads. This information, though, could also be used to tell things about your health, for example. If you're looking at flu symptoms or AIDS studies or cancer treatments, you know what? That should be your information and no one else's. In Mojave, Apple is simply shutting this down. I haven't read up exactly on how they're accomplishing this, but if you use Safari on Mojave, you will look to the internet like every other Mac running Safari. I love this, and it's truly innovative. I also hope that Microsoft and Google copy the daylights out of this privacy feature, but they probably won't. Well, I'm going to close with one more thing that truly excited me until I found out it was pretty much smoke and mirrors. Apple announced that they were finally going to let us have free trials in the app stores. It's not just users who want this, it's the developers too. I was clapping with glee during the announcement. But then I read a blog post by Daniel Jalkut, developer of the awesome blogging tool MarsEdit, on which I depend for podfeet.com. I'll link to the article he wrote in bitsplitting.org so you can read his full explanation, but here's the gist of the problem. A true free trial is where you get to use the app in its full, unencumbered glory for a short period of time, like 2 weeks or 10 days. Today, we have a weird workaround that the Omni Group actually figured out, where developers give us a free app with only partial capabilities, and then if you pay, you get more or all of the features. Now, that creates a whole lot of problems for developers and users because people get mad at the developers when a free app actually costs $50 to use. Well, unfortunately, Apple didn't actually do anything to give us truly free, unencumbered use of the apps for a period of time. The only thing they did do was change the App Store guidelines to explicitly allow this current workaround that everybody's been using that the Omni Group came out with. That's really, really disappointing to me. I sincerely hope that Daniel is wrong, but he sure sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I encourage you to read his full explanation because he delves into the problems that exist today much more articulately and completely than what I've just described. Well, the bottom line to me is that there was a lot to like about what came out of the WWDC keynote, and even more cool stuff has come out during other events during the week. I'm excited about most of it, and even the stuff that bored or annoyed me, probably more fun than I thought. Now, I'm itching to get to go try watchOS 5, iOS 12, and macOS Mojave. You know how that's pronounced? It's Mojave, but I'm afraid to load the beta, so I'll probably wait for the real deal. 50 minutes. I made a full show. There you go. Mojave. What is that? VI. Yeah, we didn't get any sausage like we promised. There we go. And that's the blog. All right. Time to wind her up, Steve.
Let's do it. Wait. Okay. Then we can get back to Lego.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I'll give my little Lego diatribe. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions. In fact, I'd love it if you'd argue with me about the stuff I thought was stupid in WWDC. That would be really fun. Do that. You can email me at allison@podfeet.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can check me out at Podfeet. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. Want to become a Patreon? Podfeet.com/Patreon. Want to join our Facebook group? Podfeet.com/Facebook. Want to join in on Google+? Podfeet.com/Google+. Want to join the live chat? Podfeet.com/chat. Want to do Amazon affiliate links? Podfeet.com/Amazon. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And I forgot to tell you, there will not be a show next Sunday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I don't think, because we're going to be up at Steve's dad celebrating Father's Day with him. So we're going to take a week off. But normally you would be able to and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Oops. Meant to put that in the beginning part of the show when people are still listening.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that? No live show next week?
Yeah, although Dave may have left.
Uh-oh. That's unfortunate. So you want me to explain what my problem is with Lego?
Sure.
So the thing that bothers me about Lego is, no, that's the wrong thing, is the kits. The kits bug me. The kits are fun, but I don't think kids get as much out of doing kits as they did back when our kids were little and you just had a giant bucket of them. I think that's a better way to, I don't know, just seems like a better way to play.
I think you'll get general agreement with that in the chat
You
room.
think?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
Oh, okay. So I was at a friend of mine's house and her son was playing, what?
Oh, Dave just said, I heard there's not a live
good.
show next week.
All right, Dave. Oh, John was hoping for a Father's Day gift. I don't think we could do the live show from your dad's. Do you think?
I forget what their bandwidth is like.
We'll see, but
we'll see if the timing works out.
And you'd have to do it from your MacBook Pro.
We may be at Sunday Fun Day.
That's right. Subscribe. All right. Well, I have kept you guys after class. It is 6:20. I'm so glad you guys stayed. Looks like you entertained Steve pretty well. Oh, I started to explain. My neighbor across the street had her son. It was really cool. I really like him. He was 4 years old, and he had this toy. It was this little magnetic toy, and where you could build stuff. And I wanted to build with him, and he said, "Oh, I got to go get the book." I'm like, "Get the instructions." Like, "We don't need the instructions." He's like, "Yeah, I need the instructions." It's like, "No, we're gonna just make stuff." So we're making stuff. We're having a great time. His mother comes over and goes, "You're not using the book." And she goes and gets the book and forces it on us. And it was like, oh man, you got this kid with this great brain and he's being all exploratory and trying new things and you just stomped on it.
That's kind of missing the point of Lego, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but
part of
that's
the
what the
creativity
kids are.
process. The creative process is to let them build what they want.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just old fashioned.
Yep, maybe we are old fashioned. We're old.
Are we fashioned?
Got that, yeah. All right. Well, we should probably let the class go. It is quite late.
It is.
Appreciate you guys all coming. It was really fun. I'm tired. I don't think I've ever recorded 51 minutes by myself.
Have you thought about taking that Reebok label off your shirt?
No. It's the thing. Not a
It's
sticker.
permanently attached?
Yeah.
That's for people that come at you looking sideways, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What time is the pizza being delivered, Steve?
Oh,
it's not being delivered. I got to go get it.
Yeah, I'm going to get it in about 15 minutes.
No, you're not going to get it. You're sick.
I can drive.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to let you guys go. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take us off from live, Steve.
Okay, we're going down. 3, 2, 1, and we're out.